What's up, everyone? Jay here from Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with some more Commander 2015 spoilers. So, since the video that I did on Wednesday of some of the cards that have been spoiled from the upcoming new Commander product, quite a few more have been revealed since then. So let's just jump right on into it and start taking a look at some of these cards. So the first one we have here is Righteous Confluence. It's a 5-cost white sorcery. Another one of those cards where you can choose any of the 3 modes multiple times. So this one is you can put a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance onto the battlefield. I personally just like that right off the bat just because it makes knights, and I have a hard-on for the knight creature type. But anyways, it also allows you to exile target enchantment, or you gain, I was about to say 3 life, you gain 5 life. And you can choose any of those modes more than once. So probably one of the weaker ones that I've seen, honestly, from the ones that I've actually seen so far. The green one is really nice. This one, not so much. We're about to take a look at the blue one next. But overall, this one's probably one of the weaker ones out of this cycle of cards that they're doing. But I mean, it's not terrible. You know, it'll either make you guys or exile enchantments. Most of the time, the gaining 5 life probably won't really be something that I would normally pick on this if I were playing it in Commander. But exiling enchantments is not bad, so I mean, I guess that part of it gets my thumbs up. Also, the 2/2 white knights, I like that a lot. So, but anyways, the next one is Mystic Confluence, a 5-cost blue instant. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3, or return target creature to its owner's hand, or draw a card. This one's awesome. Probably the most powerful one out of the ones that I've seen. We've seen the green one and the red one, which was in Wednesday's video, and then we just saw the white one, and this is the blue one. So out of those 4, probably the most powerful one, I would say. We haven't seen the black one yet, but this one's just all around got really good modes. All 3 of the modes are pretty relevant. Mana leak, or bounce a guy, or draw a card. Pretty solid. So, you know, I could counter a spell, bounce a guy, and draw a card, or I could counter a spell, bounce 2 guys, or I could draw 3 cards, or I could bounce 3 guys. Like, the fact that you can pick the same thing more than once just makes it a very versatile card. And I'm not really a blue player myself, but I really do like this card a lot. I think it's very good. Next up, we have Herald of the Host. It's a 5-cost 4/4 flyer with vigilance and myriad. That's it. It's essentially a Serra Angel with myriad. So again, that whole myriad ability, you have to be playing multiplayer in order for it to do anything. So if you're not playing multiplayer and you're playing 1v1, this is just a Serra Angel for you. If you are playing multiplayer, Myriad will put tokens, when you attack with this, it'll put tokens onto the battlefield tapped and attacking the opponent that you're attacking with this for each other opponent that's in the game. So, you know, if you're playing a 4-player game, you attack somebody with this, you'll get 2 tokens of it tapped and attacking that player. So, I mean, it can be really good in the multiplayer format, but generally Derek and I are kind of 1v1 players, so Myriad doesn't really do much for us. But even if it did, you know, it's just Serra Angel with Myriad. That's really all this is. Next up, we have War Chief Giant, a 5-cost 5/3 with haste and Myriad. That's it on that guy. Just a 5/3 with haste that can, you know, potentially get you copies of itself tapped and attacking somebody if you're playing multiplayer. Next we have Grasp of Fate. It's a 3-cost white enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until this leaves the battlefield. So essentially this is like a, you know, all-encompassing Oblivion Ring. So, if there's 3 other people in the game, you cast this, you can exile one of each of those players' things, non-land permanents, until this leaves the board. So it's just a better Oblivion Ring. So that's pretty good. I like it. Next up we have Synthetic Destiny. It's a 4-cost blue instant. Exile all creatures you control. At the beginning of the next end step, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal that many creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way onto the battlefield, then shuffle the rest of the revealed cards into your library. To be completely honest with you, I'm not really sure how to feel about this card. I guess I do see a benefit of like the cards that you reveal that aren't creatures don't go to your graveyard or anything like that. They get shuffled back into your deck. But, I really honestly don't know how to feel about this card. I generally don't want to be exiling my creatures. Unless it's going to, like, hugely benefit me somehow. Yeah, I could maybe have a bunch of tokens on the board and exile those tokens and then, get actual physical cards on the board in place of those tokens. But, I don't know. I honestly just don't know how to feel about this card. I might have to, play around with it once I get my hands on it and see, if it's good or if it's not good. Any of you watching this video, leave me some comments in the comment section below on how you feel about this card, because I have no idea how to feel about it right now. Anyways, moving on to the next card, we have Thief of Blood. It's a 6-cost 1/1 flying vampire, and a 6-cost 1/1 may seem pretty terrible, but this card does amazing things. So as it enters the battlefield, remove all counters from all permanents. Thief of Blood enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each counter removed this way. This card destroys planeswalkers just by playing it. Like, it literally just nukes every planeswalker off the board. Simple as that, just by getting it on the board. So not only will it do that, if your opponent has dudes with +1/+1 counters on it, it'll, strip all of those counters off of creatures with +1/+1s. -1/-1s, any type of counter. When this guy comes in, he wipes every counter off of every permanent and gets bigger for every counter that he wiped off. So, and at an uncommon, I feel like that's really good for an uncommon. I feel like this card should be a rare, honestly. It has the huge potential to get really big when you play it. And, normally, if you're playing this in a deck, you're probably going to be holding it, for someone that's getting maybe over-ambitious with, putting counters on their stuff, or, maybe they play a planeswalker that you don't like. I would definitely pay 6 mana to get rid of a planeswalker, that's for sure, because, most planeswalkers sitting across the table from me are going to do mean things to me. So, hell, maybe your opponent has more than one planeswalker. Maybe you're playing multiplayer and, there's 3 or 4 planeswalkers on the board. You play this guy for 6 mana, he just kills them all instantly. So this card gets my thumbs up. I like it a lot, and I really feel like it's a little too good for an uncommon. I feel like it should be a rare. Next up we have Rite of the Raging Storm. It's a 5-cost red enchantment. Creatures named Lightning Rager can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. Then at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player puts a 5/1 red elemental creature token named Lightning Rager onto the battlefield that has trample and haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this creature. I can see this as like a group huggy type card. Other than that, I probably wouldn't play it in anything. Yeah, those tokens can't attack me or a planeswalker I control, but, generally I don't want to be granting my opponents, any type of bonuses, really. Yeah, this card could, be good in some strategies, but, I mean, the only one that I can really think of that it would be very, very beneficial in is like a group hug type strategy. But, overall, it's not a bad card. I probably just wouldn't play it in much of anything, honestly. Next up, we have Bloodspore Thrinax, which is a card that I really, really like. So it's a 4-cost 2/2 Lizard with Devour 1. So basically, if any of you that don't know what Devour does, as this enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures, and then this creature enters the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters on it. If it had Devour 2, it would get twice that many +1/+1 counters. Devour 3, it would get 3 times as many. And then what's really nice about this card is each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of counters on Bloodspore Thrinax. I'm going to be playing this guy in my Prosh deck, just saying that right now. And this guy here on the side completely agrees with me. Playable with Prosh. Definitely playable with Prosh. So like if I play this guy turn 4 and maybe I gobble up 4 creatures, maybe they're tokens. My Prosh deck likes to produce lots of tokens, so maybe I gobble up 4 tokens. So this guy's going to get 4 +1/+1 counters, so he's going to be a 6/6. That's really nothing to laugh at on its own. And then let's say I cast Prosh on turn 6. I'm going to get 6 of those kobolds from casting him. Those kobolds are going to come in with 6 +1/+1 counters. Not that that really matters for this situation, but also when I cast Prosh, he's going to come in with 4 +1/+1 counters, so he's going to be a 9/9. Then I'm going to get those kobolds, probably sack all 6 of those kobolds to him to give him +6/+0. So now he's a 15 something, a 15/9. So yeah, this card is really, really good. It's definitely good in other strategies as well, not just playing it in a Prosh deck. I mean, people that like to make their dudes like huge and beefy and just turn them sideways, this guy's for you, I would say. Next up, we have Aether Snatch. It's a 6-cost blue instant. Gain control of target spell. You may choose new targets for that spell. If that spell is a permanent, that permanent enters the battlefield under your control. It's very, very similar to Commandeer from Cold Snap, just minus the ability to exile a blue card from your hand rather than paying its mana cost, I believe. It does cost a little less mana than Commandeer did at 7, but Commandeer, like I said, had that secondary way to cast it. But I mean, this card is definitely no joke. If someone's trying to cast some sort of spell that's going to swing the tide of battle in their favor, maybe like an insurrection or something, you could cast this and gain control of that insurrection, and then you reap the benefits from it instead of your opponent that's trying to cast that spell. Or if it's a permanent, you just get it onto the board on your side of the field. So definitely a really cool card. I like it. Next up, we have Daxos' Torment. It's a 4-cost black enchantment with Constellation, so whenever this or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, it becomes a 5/5 demon with flying and haste until end of turn, in addition to its other types. This card's kind of meh. I mean, it essentially comes in as a 4-cost 5/5 flyer with haste, which, I guess isn't bad, but, other than that, it's really just a 5/5 flying beater that really doesn't do anything else for me. If I want a 5/5 flying creature, I want it to also do something when it enters the battlefield, or have some sort of an ability, that I can reap benefits from. I really don't want to slot in a card into a deck if it's just like a vanilla creature. I could just play a regular demon that's a 5/5 and just, attack with it and attack with it and attack with it if I want. Why would I play this card instead? I mean, this card's kind of meh. I don't really care for it that much. But moving on from this card, we have Majus of the Wheel. So this guy is a 3-cost 3/3 that you can pay 1 in a red and tap him and sacrifice him. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws 7 cards. He's basically Wheel of Fate on a 3/3 body. And also seeing this card, as you probably all well know, the Majus cycle from the Time Spiral block, I should say, was a pretty cool thing. I really liked a lot of those cards. There was like Majus of the Future and Majus of the Jar and Majus of the Mirror and so on and so on and so on. So I'm really kind of hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, they do another cycle of Majuses, because that would be really, really, really cool. And I'm sure Nekyasar players are probably drooling all over themselves right now seeing this guy, because it just gives you another wheel effect that you can play in your deck. So, that's basically what that guy does. He's a Wheel of Fate, a Wheel of Fortune on a 3/3 body. So that's really good. Next up, we have Pathbreaker Ibex, however you want to say it. It's a 6-cost 3/3 goat that whenever it attacks, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. I've already said that I would play that Bloodspore Thrynax guy in my Prosh deck. I would probably play this guy in my Prosh deck too. Just off of this guy attacking, your team's gonna, not only get bigger, but they're gonna get trample, which is pretty damn good. So, if I were to play this in like my Prosh deck and, cast this guy, maybe I ramp a little bit and get some extra mana out on the board. Maybe I play this guy on turn 5 because I ramped into him. And then turn 6 I play Prosh, and I get the 6 kobolds, and I sack all those kobolds to Prosh to make him bigger. And now he's, a 11/5. And then I go to combat and attack with this guy. Prosh is going to get +X/+X, because he's more than likely going to be the creature with the greatest power that I control. So, he's going to give my team +11/+11. So that's no laughing matter. So this would go really good in my Prosh deck, but definitely, I'm sure there's plenty of other decks that this could go in. It's just an all-around really great green card that, if you want to just, smash dudes down on the table and turn them sideways, this guy is a shoo-in for you, I feel like. Next up, we have Mirror Match. It's a 6-cost blue instant that you can cast only during the Declare Blockers step. And for each creature attacking you or a planeswalker you control, put a token that's a copy of that creature onto the battlefield, blocking that creature. Exile those tokens at end of combat. This is just a really fun, kooky, crazy card. So, if your opponent attacks you with a whole bunch of dudes, you cast this, you get copies of every single one of those dudes, and whatever you're copying, so let's say, your opponent attacks you with a Sheoldred and something else. You're going to get a copy of that Sheoldred and that something else, and the Sheoldred's going to block the Sheoldred, and the something else is going to block the something else. So, it's a really funny card. I would just love to see someone cast this in a Commander game. Be like, oh, you're attacking me with all your dudes? Well, I'll cast this Mirror Match that's in my hand and get copies of your entire team, and my team will block your team. And, it's just fun. It's a fun card, and I want to see it played against somebody. Next up, we have Scourge of Melteth. It's a 7-cost 6/6 zombie dragon with flying, and you may rewind. You may cast Scourge of Melteth from your graveyard by paying double black and sacrificing 2 creatures rather than paying its mana cost. So, I mean, that's really cool that it has built-in recursion. But, I mean, other than that, it's really just a 6/6 flyer that really doesn't do anything else. I mean, granted, it can, as long as you have dudes to sacrifice to it and 2 black mana, you can keep bringing this guy back from the yard over and over and over. But, I mean, he's really, when you take that away, he's just a 6/6 flyer. You know, there's so many other cards that I could play for the same amount of mana with the same power and toughness that also fly, that, you know, have an enter the battlefield effect or have some sort of an ability that I can activate. Because generally, you know, I don't want to be cutting cards into a deck. You know, especially like when I see new dragons, I'm like, can this go into my Kaalia deck? This guy, I probably would not put into my Kaalia deck. I could say for sure that I would not put him in my Kaalia deck. Sure, he'd be great, you know, in a deck that produces lots of tokens, or, you know, a deck that has a heavy reanimation theme. But other than that, I just see him as a 6/6 beater that flies. Yeah, he can recur himself, but he really doesn't do much else. So, anyway, moving on to the next card, we have Misek's Mastery. It's a 4-cost red sorcery. Exile target card that's an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost, and then exile Misek's Mastery. And it also has Overload for 5 and 3 red. So if you overload it, you replace all the instances of the word target with each. So if you overload this, it reads exile each card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, blah, 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 blah. So pretty powerful card. If we actually scroll down here and look at the Thesaurus, I guess they call it, this card's very, very similar to Past in Flames. So, you know, this card essentially lets you flash back a card out of your graveyard, but you don't actually have to pay its cost. So, you know, Past in Flames, when you cast it, it makes it so that each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn, and its flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. So if you have a 9-cost sorcery in your graveyard, you cast that, then you have to pay 9 mana to cast that out of your graveyard. If you have a 9-mana sorcery in your graveyard and you cast this for 4, you're essentially casting that 9-mana sorcery for 4 mana. And then, you know, if you overload it and, you know, rip all kinds of stuff out of your graveyard, you're essentially, you know, casting all of those spells for 8 mana. So it's a pretty damn powerful card. I like it a lot. Next up, we have Arachnogenesis. It's a 3-cost green instant. Put X 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield, where X is the number of creatures attacking you. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by non-spider creatures. This card's pretty awesome. The fact that it only costs 3 mana for what it does, I feel like it's dirt cheap to cast this at 3. And for what it does, if your opponent's attacking you with an army, let's say 20 guys, and you cast this for 3 mana, you just get 20 1/2 spiders, and then you can either let all your opponent's creatures go unblocked, because it also fogs for non-spider creatures. So, yeah, granted, if your opponent attacks you with a spider, that's still going to deal damage to you, but, I mean, you're not going to see many creatures of the spider creature type in Commander. So, you know, you could just let all their stuff go in unblocked, and they're not going to deal any damage, or you could use all those 1/2 spiders to block some of your opponent's stuff and potentially kill some of it if they only have 1 toughness. So this card is really, really nice, I feel like. I really like it a lot. And the fact that it's only 3 mana for an instant, it's just, I like it. I really do. It fogs and can generate you an army of spiders. So it's all around good stuff. Next up, we have Great Oak Guardian. He's a 6-cost 4/5 with flash and reach. And when he enters the battlefield, creatures target player controls get +2/+2 until end of turn, untap them. So I like this guy a lot too. The fact that he has flash is really nice. The fact that he has reach is nice too. But you know that +2/+2 on target players' creatures, and it also untaps them is just really, really cool. And what's really nice about it is that it's target player. So if you're playing like a group huggy deck, you could definitely fit this into your deck. Maybe you're playing the variant that we did a video on recently of the variant Usurper. Maybe you're playing that. Maybe you're the bodyguard and you're trying to protect the king. This guy's really good, for that purpose. But not only that, if you swing in with your team and tap all your guys down, and then your opponent thinks they have you, in a bad situation. You could cast this guy when they go to attack into you, untap all your stuff and make it bigger. So, combat tricks, or, whatever, just making your dudes bigger to go in for more damage, all around good stuff. I like this guy a lot too. Next up we have Corpse Auger. He's a 4-cost, 4/2 zombie wizard. When he dies, you draw X cards and lose X life, where X is the number of creature cards in target player's graveyard. Pretty cool card. I really like the art on this card a lot. I just like how, you can just see his rib cage here, and like it's kind of, he looks like he has a little mini Omnath in his chest, because like that color is very similar to the color of Omnath, Locus of Mana. It just looks like he has a baby Omnath inside of his chest cavity. But anyway, I mean, aside from that, I really like the bone scythe that he's holding too, so the art really does it for me. As far as the card goes, it's pretty decent. Yeah, it has the potential to kind of screw you over, but generally when you play this guy, you're probably going to play him and then immediately try to sacrifice him away, or get him to die somehow so you can reap the benefits. You probably wouldn't want to like just play this guy and just have him sit there, because then if your opponent starts racking up the creatures in the graveyard and then they kill him and just make you draw a whole bunch of cards and lose a whole bunch of life, it could hurt for you. So, but generally, the cards drawn are, they heavily outweigh the life lost, unless you're, at like 5 life and, your opponent has 5 or more dudes in the yard, then you probably don't want this guy on the board. But overall, he gets my thumbs up. Next, we have Meteor Blast. It's a 3-cost red sorcery with X in its cost. Meteor Blast deals 4 damage to each of X target creatures and/or players. Normally when we see red burn spells, the X cost is, how many targets that it's gonna target. I'm sorry, no, this is what this card does. The X cost is usually how much damage you're gonna deal to a single target. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart there. But yeah, normally that's what we see in a red burn spell. The X cost is how much damage you're pumping into it to deal to one target. This is already going to deal 4 damage. The X is how many targets that you want that 4 damage to be dealt to. That's really good. Has the potential to wipe somebody's board. It's really good. I like it a lot. And, I mentioned in the last video, I believe it was with that blue cat illusion creature with flash that, is a 4/1 body, and he draws you cards equal to the amount of damage that he's dealt. So, that card essentially, reads deal 4 damage to target attacking creature and draw cards equal to its power. So, like I said in that, 4 damage is a pretty substantial amount, and 4 damage will kill a, pretty decent amount of creatures in the format. So, this card, it gets my thumbs up. I really do like it a lot. Next up, we have Thought's Urn. It's a 2-cost artifact that makes it so you have no maximum hand size, and it's a mana rock. So, enough said about that. Alright, so that wraps up all of the non-legendary cards that were spoiled since the last video that I did. So let's jump right on into the other 5 legendary creatures that we're getting as new commanders from this product. So the first one we have here is Karloff of the Ghost Council. He's a 2-cost 2/2, 1 white and 1 black for a legendary Spirit Advisor. And before I continue with this card, I kind of want to just throw it out there that I really love when Wizards, has like little nods and nuances to like previous sets and like creatures from previous sets. So I mean, Karloff is of the Ghost Council, so he is one of the 5 ghosts of the Ghost Council, and I really do like that a lot, that they took one of those and like gave it its own creature. I really like that a lot, I really do. But anyways, whenever you gain life, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Karloff of the Ghost Council. Then you can pay 1 white and 1 black, remove 6 +1/+1 counters from him to exile target creature. Definitely a really potent ability. Definitely build around me. You definitely want to be playing a probably a very heavy life gain theme deck with this guy. If you're building black-white, you've got plenty of ways to gain you some life, especially in white. So, I mean, the fact that this guy just straight up exiles creatures for that ability is really, really nice. Yeah, you got to get him up to 6 +1/+1 counters, but I mean, every time you gain life, he's going to get 2. So, I mean, it's not going to be difficult to get him up to 6 +1/+1 counters. And not only that, I mean, that's going to make him big. So, not only is he going to have the ability to exile dudes and get them out of the way, he's going to get big and go in for some pretty decent commander damage if he goes unblocked. So, he could definitely be like a Voltron-style general, too, I feel like. Not even having to put like any type of enchantments or equipments on him, just gain a whole boatload of life and just make him friggin' huge. So I like him a lot. I think he's a pretty potent new legendary creature, and I definitely feel like we could see some decks built around this guy. Next we have Arjun the Shifting Flame. He's a 6-cost 5/5 flyer. He's a Sphinx Wizard. And whenever you cast a spell, put the cards in your hand on the bottom of your library in any order, then draw that many cards. I could see this guy being really, really good in like a Niv Mizzet deck, where you want to be drawing cards and just dealing lots of damage to your opponent. But other than that, I feel like this guy is a really situational card. I mean, just off of casting a spell, I may not want to put all the cards in my hand on the bottom of my library and then draw that many. I mean, unless the cards in my hand are all just dead cards, then yeah, I'll cast a spell and recycle my hand and hopefully get something better. But, I feel like there's just a time and a place that you would want to cast this guy. And at least for me, that time and that place probably wouldn't be very often, because I don't know. I just don't really feel strongly about this guy. I probably wouldn't play him in anything. I'm sure there's a lot of people that saw this guy and was like, oh, this guy's awesome. I'm going to build around him, or I'm going to put him in a deck or whatever. That's all fine and dandy. I personally just don't see it. I feel like he's kind of a bigger downfall than he is an upside. Just by casting a spell out of my hand, then I have to recycle my entire hand. I might not want to do that. So, if I don't want to do that, why do I have this guy in the 99 of my deck? Unless he's, the general. But, I mean, he's good in very specific types of decks. I just don't see him being phenomenal, other than just in very specific builds. But, leave me some comments in the comment section below, and if you think I'm an idiot, then let me know that I'm an idiot and this guy's amazing. I personally just don't see it. Next up is Mirin of Clan Neltoth. She's a 4-cost 3/4 legendary human shaman. She's Golgari colors. And whenever another creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of your end step, choose target creature card in your graveyard. If that card's converted mana cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have, return it to the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. I love this card. Absolutely love it. Recursion. That's what this card's all about. And recursion, in my eyes, is one of the main things that you want to be looking for in your deck if you're making a commander deck. That's, like when I'm building a deck, I have like a little checklist of like things that I want the deck to do or expect the deck to do. And recursion is always one of those one of those things. This card completely encompasses that, like, tenfold. Just off of creatures you control dying, you're going to get experience counters. And as we all know, Commander's a very wrath-heavy meta. So creatures are going to die. Your creatures are going to die. Your opponent's creatures are going to die. Granted that this is only kicked off when your creatures die. But you're in black-green, so you've got plenty of ways to sacrifice dudes, and stuff like that. So if you're helming this this creature as your commander of a deck, I'm pretty sure that when you get those experience counters, even if this creature dies or gets exiled or whatever and then goes back to your command zone, those experience counters are on you. They're not on like a permanent or anything, so they're going to stick around forever. So, just the fact that you can get those counters just off of your dudes dying, I feel like this card can generate experience counters the quickest out of any of the other creatures that we've seen that generate experience counters on you. And then the fact that it resurrects a creature out of your graveyard right onto the board if its cost is less than or equal to the number of experience counters you have. And even if it's not, it goes back to your hand. So you're either getting it back to your hand or back on the board. And I've referenced my Prosh deck twice already, but this card would be awesome in my Prosh deck. Cast this turn 4, let it sit around, cast Prosh on turn 6, get those 6 kobolds, sack all 6 of them to Prosh. I just got 6 experience counters because 6 of my creatures just died. And then, from there on out, every time she's on the board, on my end step, I can resurrect a guy with 6 or less mana cost right onto the board. And, I could obviously tick up those experience counters even higher, but I love this card. It just fully encompasses the idea of recursion, which I really, really love. Next up, we have Anya, Merciless Angel. She is a 3-cost 4/4 Boros Angel with flying. She gets +3/+3 for each opponent whose life total is less than half his or her starting life total. And as long as your opponent's life total is less than half of his or her starting life total, Anya's indestructible. So she's all around pretty menacing. So she's, if you're using her as your general of your deck, you probably kind of want to keep her in the command zone for a while to keep her safe. And then, once you dwindle somebody down to less than 20, cast her. Now she's indestructible, and she's going to get a +3/+3. And that's just if you're playing like 1v1. If you're playing multiplayer, let's say you're playing a 4-player game, and all 3 of your opponents are at less than 20 life, and you get her on the board, she's going to get a +3/+3 3 times. So she's going to get a +9/+9 because it's for each opponent whose life total is less than half their starting life total. And she's going to be indestructible. So just off of that, she's going to be a 13/13 that's indestructible and it flies. So she's a pretty brutal creature, I would say. She definitely is the merciless angel for sure. So I could definitely see her being the general of some Boros decks out there. And once you get her on the board, as long as you meet that stipulation and she's indestructible, she's going to be hard to remove, hard to get off the board. Next up, we have Zuri, Claw of Progress. This guy, actually, when I did the video on Wednesday, this card was revealed at that point. I just completely omitted him for some reason from the video. I just completely forgot about him and didn't include him in the video. So here he is now. He's a 4-cost 3/3. He's Simic colors, a legendary elf warrior. And it's also worth noting, kind of going back to the whole, like, Wizards, bringing back creatures from previous sets, and giving, like, little nods to them. Zuri was from the Scourge of Melteth block, and it appears now that he has been corrupted by Phyrexia, because he's the Claw of Progress, and I believe Jingitaxis, one of the praetors of Phyrexia, was all about progress and things of that nature. That word progress was referenced many times in flavor texts of blue Phyrexian cards. So it appears as Zuri's been corrupted by Phyrexia, and possibly for the better. So what he does is whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters that you have. So getting dudes on the board with 2 or less power, if you're playing like a token deck, that's easy peasy. You're going to rack up experience counters pretty quick. Next to Mirin, the Golgari legend that we saw, I feel like Zuri's probably, second place for how quickly you can rack up experience counters on him. Maybe you're playing tribal elves, plenty of elves in mono green, and then you can play blue for disruption with this guy. So, he's pretty potent, but at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get those X 1/1 counters on another creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you have. That reminds me a little bit of Xenagos the Reveler. Not Xenagos the Reveler, Xenagos, God of Revels. His ability, granted that it's not nearly as powerful as that ability, but it's very similar to it, where, you go to combat and you make a dude friggin' huge and turn him sideways. So, he's pretty cool. I like him a lot. Definitely, a card that I could see leading the 99 of a deck for sure. And I believe that's the last card, yes. So that about wraps up the video, guys, for these spoilers for the Commander 2015 product that's coming out next week on Friday. There are still some cards that have yet to be revealed from this set, at least the brand new cards that we have, haven't seen. They're not reprints or brand new stuff. So there are a few more to be revealed, so I'll probably do another video when those are revealed and get all that stuff out of the way. But anyways, that about wraps it up. So let me know what you guys think, what you think of these cards, what you think of my opinions on these cards, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, whatever it may be. Just let me know. I really love to hear your comments and suggestions and stuff like that. So leave me some comments. If you enjoyed the video, please thumbs up the video. It really helps out a lot. Lets us know that you enjoy these videos so that we know to continue to keep doing them. Spoiler videos and stuff like that. And if you're not already subscribed to Tap and Turn Gaming, please hit that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. But this has been Jay with Tap and Turn Gaming. Again, hope everybody enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot for watching.